Tombstone still feels like dust on a Sunday afternoon, with gun smoke hanging over the street and old loyalties waiting to be tested. We remember Wyatt's stare, Doc's smile, the brothers standing together, in a town where every quiet moment seemed to know trouble was coming. But time has carried the cast far beyond that familiar street. Some kept working, some stepped into quieter chapters, and some have left us with memories that feel even more precious now. This is not about how the years changed them. It is about what remained and why those faces still pull us back. Wyatt Earp walks into Tombstone like a man who has already spent too much of his life hearing gunfire. He is not chasing glory. He is not looking for another legend to wear. He wants a quieter future, a little money, and a chance to stand outside the trouble that once followed his name. That is what makes him so compelling. The peace he wants is real, but the town around him keeps proving that peace has to be protected. Kurt Russell gave Wyatt that worn, controlled strength when Tombstone reached audiences. He was 42 then, old enough to play a man who understood danger, but still young enough to make Wyatt's fury feel alive beneath the surface. Russell does not play him as a showman. He lets the silence do most of the work. A look across the street, a pause before a decision, the hard set of his jaw, all of it tells you that Wyatt knows what violence costs before he ever reaches for a gun. The years after Tombstone only deepened Russell's place in Hollywood memory. He had already traveled from Disney beginnings into the darker, tougher world of John Carpenter, then kept moving through thrillers, dramas, westerns, franchise films, and roles that reached new generations. Off-screen, his long partnership with Goldie Hawn also became part of the familiar warmth audiences associated with him. In 2026, he stands as one of those rare actors whose career feels both familiar and surprisingly wide. Time gave him a different kind of weight, but it never took away the steady presence audiences first trusted. Wyatt remains powerful because Russell made him human before he made him heroic. He showed a man trying to step away from bloodshed, then forced to face the part of himself that still knew how to end it. And once Wyatt's restraint begins to break, Tombstone stops feeling like a simple Western. It becomes a story about what happens when peace is cornered and when a colder kind of danger steps out of the shadows to meet it. Johnny Ringo feels like the cold thought hiding behind Tombstone's violence. He is not the loudest man in the room, and he does not need to be. His danger comes from the way he watches, waits, and seems to understand death a little too well. Around him, the cowboys can look reckless or drunk on their own swagger. Ringo feels different. He feels educated, bitter, and almost tired of the world before the fight even begins. Michael Biehn brought that stillness to the role when he was 37. By then, many viewers already knew him from the hard-edged worlds of The Terminator, Aliens, and The Abyss, where he often played men pushed into survival. In Tombstone, he used that same intensity in a quieter, darker way. His Ringo does not explode. He narrows. That is why his scenes with Doc Holliday carry such weight. They feel like two men recognizing the same darkness, but choosing different sides of it. By 2026, Biehn's place in genre history remains secure. Ringo endures because he made intelligence feel dangerous, lonely, and already touched by ruin. Maddie Blaylock is the quiet ache that Tombstone leaves in the corner of the room. She is not part of the gunfighter legend people love to repeat. She is the woman watching that legend move away from her, one small silence at a time. Dana Wheeler Nicholson was in her early 30s when the film reached audiences, and she played Maddie without begging for sympathy. Her sadness sits low and tired, like someone who already knows the room has changed before anyone says it aloud. Maddie struggles with laudanum, loneliness, and the slow humiliation of becoming a burden in the life of a man looking elsewhere. After Tombstone, Wheeler Nicholson continued building a steady career in film and television, bringing warmth and strength to roles that often lived outside the brightest spotlight. But Maddie remains because she shows what Western myths often leave behind. Not every wound comes from a bullet. Some come from being forgotten while history rides forward. And Morgan Earp makes that cost even more personal because his warmth is exactly what violence cannot spare. Morgan Earp carries one of Tombstone's gentlest lights. While Wyatt holds back his anger and Virgil carries the weight of duty, Morgan feels like the brother who still believes there might be laughter left in the room. He jokes, watches, listens, and gives the Earp family its warmth. That is why his fate lands so deeply. When violence reaches him, it does not feel like a plot turn. It feels like something decent being taken from a story. Bill Paxton was 38 when he played Morgan, and he brought the kind of open-hearted presence that made audiences trust him almost immediately. Paxton had a gift for making supporting characters feel close to us. In Tombstone, that gift mattered. Morgan did not need long speeches to be remembered. He only needed that easy kindness, that sense of a man who loved his brothers and never fully believed the world could be as cruel as it was. After Tombstone, Paxton's career kept reaching audiences through films like Apollo 13, Twister, Titanic, and many other roles that carried his familiar warmth. His passing in 2017, at 61, gave those performances a softer ache. Morgan remains one of them. He reminds us that in Westerns, the deepest loss is not always the loudest one. And once that loss settles over Tombstone, the question changes. It is no longer only who can shoot fastest. It is whether the law itself still has a soul. Sheriff Biehn brings a different kind of danger into Tombstone. He wears the badge, but the badge does not always feel like justice. Around Wyatt and his brothers, Biehn feels smooth, careful, and political, a man who knows how to stand near power without standing firmly for what is right. John Tenney was in his early 30s when the film reached audiences, and he gave Biehn a polished unease. He was not a loud villain. He was something more familiar, a man who could make law feel flexible when courage was needed most. That shadow makes Virgil Earp feel even more necessary. Virgil Earp feels like the kind of man a town hopes will stand up when everyone else starts looking away. He is not as restless as Wyatt, and he is not as fragile as Morgan. Virgil carries duty in a quieter, heavier way. When he steps into the street, you feel the burden of a man who understands that law is not a badge by itself. It has to. Sam Elliott was 49 when he played Virgil, and he brought something to the role that almost no one else could. His voice already sounded like old leather, dry wind, and years of hard lessons. But the performance is not just about the voice. Elliott gives Virgil patience. He gives him weight. He makes him feel like the older brother who has learned to swallow fear before. After Tombstone, Elliott's place in American screen memory only grew stronger. He continued carrying the Western spirit into new eras, from traditional frontier stories to later roles that used his presence as a symbol of dignity, endurance, and plain-spoken truth. By 2026, he remains one of the living faces most closely tied to the idea of the Ameri. Virgil endures because he reminds us that courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is simply a man staying upright when the whole town seems ready to bend. Ike Clanton brings fear into Tombstone, but not the quiet kind. His fear is noisy, restless, and always looking for someone else to blame. He talks big, circles danger, and helps push the town toward a violence he cannot fully control. That makes him memorable in a different way. Ike is not frightening because he is brave. He is frightening because panic can still do damage. Stephen Lang was 41 when he played him, and he gave Ike a raw, frantic energy that cut against the stillness of Wyatt and Virgil. Later, Lang would become known to new generations through powerful, physical roles, especially in Avatar and other intense screen work. Looking back, Ike shows how a Western can be shaped not only by courage, but by cowardice. And that choice leads toward Josephine, who offered Wyatt a glimpse of life beyond all that dust and fear. Josephine Marcus feels like the first bright color Wyatt notices after too many days in brown dust. She is not part of the law, the cowboys, or the old burdens he carries. She moves through Tombstone with a different rhythm, more alive to music, performance, and possibility. For Wyatt, she becomes a glimpse of another life, one not ruled by gun belts and unfinished grudges. Dana Delaney was 37 when she played Josephine, and she brought the role a quiet confidence. She did not make Josephine feel like decoration in a Western built around men. She made her feel like choice. Delaney already carried the emotional strength many viewers remembered from China Beach, and that sense of intelligence helped Josephine stand apart from the noise around her. In the years after Tombstone, Delaney continued to build a career around women with wit, warmth, and inner steel, from television drama to voice work that reached younger audiences. Josephine remains important because she gives the story something beyond revenge. She reminds us that even in a violent town, someone can still point toward tomorrow. But not every woman in Doc and Wyatt's world found that kind of open door. Big Nose Kate carries a sharper kind of sadness in Tombstone. She's close to Doc Holliday, but closeness does not always mean peace. Around him, she feels protective, wounded, jealous, and tired from loving a man who seems half in this world and half already drifting away. Joanna Pacula was in her mid-30s when the film reached audiences, and she gave Kate more than a familiar Western label. She gave her pride. She gave her temper. She also gave her the ache of someone who knows love can become helpless when the person beside you refuses to be saved. After Tombstone, Pacula remained remembered for roles that carried mystery and intensity. Kate stays with the film because she reminds us that Doc's legend was not lived alone. Someone stood close enough to see the pain behind the charm. Doc Holliday is the heartbeat of Tombstone sorrow. He moves through the film like a man who has already made peace with the end, yet still refuses to abandon the few people he loves. His body is failing, but his wit is alive. His smile can cut through a room. His loyalty to Wyatt feels almost sacred because Doc has so little time left and still chooses to spend it standing beside a friend. Val Kilmer was 33 when he played him, and the performance became one of those rare screen memories that seems to grow stronger with age. He did not play Doc as a simple dying gunfighter. He made him graceful, funny, dangerous, and painfully aware of his own limits. Every cough, every pause, every soft line carried the feeling of someone using charm to cover exhaustion. That is why audiences still remember him so clearly. Doc could be amused by death, but he was never empty. Under the elegance was a man who knew what was coming. After Tombstone, Kilmer's career continued across major roles, from Jim Morrison to Batman, from Heat to the long echo of Top Gun. Later in life, his voice and health changed after his battle with throat cancer, and when audiences saw him again in Top Gun, Maverick, the moment carried a quiet emotional weight. It was not only about nostalgia. It was about presence. It was about a familiar face returning with all the years visible and all the dignity still there. Kilmer passed away in 2025 at 65, and that loss made Doc Holliday feel even more tender in memory. The role had always been about a man living close to the edge. Now, looking back, it also feels like a reminder of what an actor can leave behind when a performance becomes part of people's lives. Doc endures because Kilmer gave him more than style. He gave him pain, humor, friendship, and a strange kind of peace. And after a figure that unforgettable, Tombstone shifts to a younger face watching history from the edges, not yet sure what kind of man the West will ask him to become. Billy Breckenridge stands near the edge of Tombstone's history, young enough to still be learning what power looks like, and close enough to danger to feel its pull. He is not one of the great gunfighters. He is more like a witness, someone caught between badge, loyalty, and the larger men around him. Jason Priestley was 24 when he played him, and for many viewers, his face carried a very different kind of memory from Beverly Hills, 90210. That contrast made his presence in Tombstone quietly interesting. He brought youth into a world already crowded with hardened men. In the years after, Priestley continued acting, directing, and rebuilding after a serious racing accident. Billy remains a small but useful reminder that the West was not only shaped by legends. It was also watched by younger men still deciding where they stood. Curly Bill Brocious brings a dangerous kind of pleasure into Tombstone. He does not seem burdened by violence the way Wyatt is, or haunted by it the way Doc is. Curly Bill seems entertained by the chaos around him. He laughs where other men tense up. He moves through the town as if rules are only temporary things, waiting for someone bold enough to break them. Powers Booth was 45 when he played him, and he understood how to make a villain feel larger without making him cartoonish. His voice had weight. His smile had threat behind it. Curly Bill could be charming for a second, then suddenly remind you that charm meant very little when a man enjoyed power too much. Booth gave him that uneasy balance, and it is why the character still lingers. After Tombstone, Booth continued building a career around men with authority, danger, and hard edges. He brought that presence to westerns, crime stories, comic book worlds, and television, always with a voice audiences recognized before the scene had fully settled. His passing in 2017, at 68, gave his work a more reflective place in memory. Curly Bill endures because Booth made him feel like more than a lawless cowboy. He made him the sound of a town losing control. And when that kind of chaos spreads, it does not stop with the men at the top. It reaches the younger hands still trying to prove themselves. Billy Clanton feels like the young heat of the Cowboys, the kind of man still trying to prove he belongs among louder, harder figures. He is not the center of Tombstone, but he helps show how pride can travel through a group before anyone understands the cost. Thomas Hayden Church was 33 when he played him, long before many viewers knew him from Sideways or as Sandman in the Spider-Man films. His later career gave that early Western face a different echo. Billy remains a small but telling part of the story, because even lesser names can be pulled into history's gunfire. Frank McClory is one of the quieter shadows in Tombstone's conflict. He does not need to dominate the screen to add danger. His presence helps make the Cowboys feel like a real force, not just a handful of louder men looking for trouble. Robert John Burke was 33 when he played Frank, and he brought a steady, grounded quality to the role. After Tombstone, he continued as a dependable character actor across film and television, often giving smaller parts a firm, believable shape. Frank remains a reminder that history is often pushed forward by men standing just outside the spotlight. Sherman McMasters gives Tombstone one of its more interesting shades of gray. He comes from the cowboy side of the world, but he is not locked there forever. That matters. In a story filled with pride and revenge, McMasters suggests that a man can still hear his conscience, even after standing among the wrong people. Michael Rooker was 38 when he played him, and he brought the rough, lived-in energy that later made him so memorable in The Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy. Rooker has always been good at playing men who look dangerous before you realize there is more going on underneath. McMasters remains a useful part of Tombstone because he reminds us that redemption does not always arrive cleanly. Sometimes it rides and covered with dust. Mayor John Clum gives Tombstone a quieter kind of backbone. He is not remembered for drawing a gun or staring down danger in the street. His place is more civic, more patient, and just as important. He reminds us that a town is not only built by lawmen and outlaws. It is also built by people trying to keep a public life from falling apart. Terry O'Quinn was 41 when he appeared in Tombstone, years before many viewers came to know him as John Locke on Lost. Even in a smaller role, he brought a steady intelligence to Clum, the sense of a man watching the town with concern rather than swagger. Clum remains part of the film's texture because he helps Tombstone feel lived in, not merely fought over. Mr. Fabian brings a small but memorable change of air into Tombstone. For a moment, the town is not only dust, whiskey, and gun belts. It also has theater, performance, and a little fragile civilization trying to survive beside the violence. Billy Zane was 27 when he played Fabian, years before Titanic made his face familiar to millions. In Tombstone, he gives the role charm and theatrical color without pulling the film away from its world. Fabian feels like a reminder that even rough towns had stages, songs, and people reaching for beauty. That touch of showmanship opens the door to another kind of detail, the kind that made the Western world feel real. Texas Jack Vermillion lives in the rough edges of Tombstone, where the hats, horses, guns, and dust make the world feel lived in. He is not there to steal the center of the story. He is there to make the ride feel real. Peter Sherayko was in his late 40s when Tombstone reached audiences, and his connection to Western authenticity gave the film an added layer of texture. As Texas Jack, he helped represent the men who fill out the trail behind Wyatt, men shaped by saddle leather, weather, and hard miles. His value is quiet but important. Tombstone needed legends, but it also needed people who made the legend believable. Turkey Creek Jack Johnson carries the feel of old Western television into Tombstone. He does not need a grand speech to belong in that world. His presence has the plain, weathered confidence of someone who looks right on horseback, right beside the dust, and right inside a story built from frontier memory. Buck Taylor was 55 when he played him, and for many older viewers, his face carried a much longer trail. Before Tombstone, Taylor was already deeply tied to the Western tradition through Gunsmoke, where he became part of one of television's most enduring frontier memories. That history gives his Tombstone appearance a special warmth. He's not just playing a man in the Old West. He brings a living connection to the way America once watched Westerns at home. In the years since, Taylor has remained connected to that world as both an actor and Western artist. Turkey Creek Jack endures because he feels like a bridge between generations, from classic television evenings to the big-screen dust of Tombstone. Henry Hooker enters Tombstone with the quiet force of another Hollywood era. He is not on screen for long, but the moment carries weight because the man behind him carries so much history. In a film already filled with guns, dust, brothers, and old grudges, Hooker feels like a doorway to something larger. His presence reminds us that this Western is also speaking to the Westerns and epics that came before it. Charlton Heston was around 70 when Tombstone reached audiences, and by then his name already belonged to classic Hollywood. He had played kings, prophets, soldiers, artists, and men standing at the center of enormous stories. So when he appeared as Henry Hooker, he brought more than a cameo. He brought memory. He brought the gravity of Ben-Hur, the Ten Commandments, and a whole age of movie-going when stars seemed carved into the screen. Heston passed away in 2008 at 84, leaving behind a legacy that reaches far beyond any single role. But in Tombstone, his brief appearance still matters. It feels like the old guard stepping into the dust one more time, lending its shadow to a newer Western before riding out again. And with that final echo, Tombstone feels less like a cast list and more like a meeting place for generations of American film. Tombstone leaves us with dust, gun smoke, brotherhood, and that lonely street where memory still gathers. More than 30 years have passed, and every face from that world has traveled a different road. Some kept working, some stepped back, and some now live only through the performances they left behind. But what remains is not age or distance. It is the feeling they gave us when the West came alive again. Stay with Hollywood Echo as we revisit more faces that never really left us.